Welcome, Colvin.
Hi.
Hi, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Cliff. Well, Cliff Ord, but most people, my ex-colleagues, would know me as Cliff. Joined Alders November '89. Left just before the Mark II Alders closed in 2012. And now, the last 6 months, nearly 6 months, officially retired. '89, I was then 30. Yeah, 30. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to do the maths. Yeah, 30, 31.
So how did you get to know this job?
The store, well, obviously my mum used to drag me around on Saturday mornings or whatever else into town. You know, I knew of the store, obviously. I had worked in retail in Croydon before, so actually Alders was actually competition to me, you know, in the numerous locations of the stores I worked for. This was always competition, so I'd pop in and see what their prices were and all that business to make sure we had a competitive edge and whatever else. So yeah, it was the opposition before I joined Alders. Yeah, I worked for Lasky's, who was then a electrical. They've gone out of business. High-end, hi-fi TV, etc. And also Halfords, who are still around today, the car and bicycle accessories company.
And what job position did you apply for in Alders?
In Alders, I came in as, I think they used to call it supervisor in those days, or assistant manager or whatever else. But originally I came in, because it was in November. I left Lasky's, I think in September. I thought, I need something to tie me over Christmas. It was basically a Christmas job. I thought, you know, I quite like it here. Yeah, went into management and yeah, that's it really.
Okay, can you tell us why did you like this position?
I think it was quite welcoming. The problem is if on the high street, if you're a manager of a store, you don't really get backup. You're everything. You're doing advertising, you're doing windows, you're interviewing staff. You've got the whole lot. You open and close lock the doors every night and open again the next morning. And you're banking. You were doing all sorts of stuff. We didn't have that here. You had to manage people and products, which you couldn't really do on the high street. We didn't have the backup. It's very lonely figure as a resale manager, because you've got targets, you've got to look after the staff, the products, the customers, etc. And on a department store, a lot of that's taken off you. Yes, you're still responsible, but it's actually taken off your shoulders, a lot of it. And you're working with fellow managers as well, you know, and all staff, not just management, but all staff, and you can have a coffee and, oh, I've got a problem with this, I've got a problem with that. And you've all had those problems, you can talk about it, discuss it. Do you know what, I did this or I did that or whatever it might be. And yeah, you had a lot more backup, a lot more security.
So how was the interaction or the atmosphere there working in Alders?
When I first started, it was, I was always against it, to be honest with you. The staff canteen on the 5th floor used to have this big red curtain, and the management sat one end and the staff the other side of this curtain, and I always hated that. I got told up a few times because I was actually having lunch or coffee with my staff rather than next door behind the curtain with the management. But that went, I think, early 90s, thank God, because it was such an old-fashioned way of dealing, you know, with your staff, you know, so I'm glad that went, yeah. I felt it very old-fashioned when I first started. You know, I came from a company which was, say, it was quite big on TV and computers and all that business, and I come in to Alders. We don't have a computer. You know, there's nothing around. I thought, seriously? How do we do the figures? Yeah, how do we look at last year's figures and all this business? There's nothing on record. I mean, a few departments did, you know, but generally on the sales floor, no, there weren't any. Or if you're a salesman, there weren't any computers. I was shocked when it came in. It was very old-fashioned, very old-fashioned. I joined a department called Junior Beds and Office Furniture, which was a bit of a mouthful. So basically did kids' bedrooms, basically. And in those days, obviously, computers were just coming out and people were needing desks, etc. for home. But we're not talking about laptops, we're talking about big, desktop things with great big monitors and hard drives and whatever else. So there's actually a lot of money to be made in desks and filing cabinets for home. So it was a newish sort of department. And then kind of stayed in either beds or furniture through, pretty much a whole career at ALLDERS.
Can you tell us your day-to-day in your working?
Depends actually, because I went from management to sales. I realised there's a lot more money in sales. Then back into management, then did a back office job. So they were all a little bit different. I suppose sales are pretty much, apart from the odd strange customer request or whatever, which have been quite a few, was pretty much the same. Obviously, sale times, you're all hyped up and whatever else, and good grief if we have a few sales. Management was a little bit different. There's always something challenging, whether it be staff, product or customer. There's always, that was a little bit more varied on the management side. Back office was, again, you've got to support, and we were a support thing for the guys on the front. And I suppose a bit different that I'd done both sides of the job, the cold face and the support side. So I think I knew roughly what they needed, as help and support and whatever, to we could achieve these figures, these targets, etc. So it was never really the same 2 days at all. There were times when you were really psyched up, it's first day of sale or whatever else, and everybody's really up for it. Motivation and whatever else, and tannoys going out every 10 seconds, but and other times obviously a little bit quiet and you can actually talk to your staff for once, which is nice. Try not to, in case senior management are around, you seem to have a bit too much of a laugh and a joke on the shop floor, but you had your quiet periods, there was no 2 days really alike, and that's an old cliche, but there weren't. There's always something comes out and rears his ugly head, or become very enjoyable. Either way. Sales, I love the targeting. It's and it always has been. Not even before ALLDERS. Right, okay, how are we going to achieve this? What are we going to do? And it does get you, it's like, a footballer playing the FA Cup final rather than a normal match, you're just really psyched up for that day or those weeks as it happens for sale periods, you've been really up for it, and no drinking the night before and all that business, might do the day afterwards, but it's really motivated on the sales time. You obviously had target figures you obviously were trying to achieve the whole time. Sometimes they were ridiculously unachievable, so that was the opposite. It really didn't motivate you at all. It was demotivation. There's no way, who's come up with these figures or whatever else. But hey, everybody else had the same sort of things. Cloud cuckoo land. They don't know what they're doing. But you get through it as best as you could. We would have, we had some good, I don't know if my ex-colleagues have told you, but the big ticket departments, the heavy departments we used to call them, selling the products for a few £100s, a few £1,000s. They were highly trained staff, and I can't teach them, we used to see what they call it, stuck eggs, they're good. However, it doesn't mean to say they can't be, there's something they're slightly missing, or you might get a new product in, so we'd get suppliers in, and Tuesday morning was staff training morning, I'd ring up one of our suppliers, say, what are you doing Tuesday week or whatever, can you come down, explain the new product to the staff. Sometimes they think, oh God, we've heard it all before, we've seen it all before, but we've still got to be there, and they've got to know these things, and sometimes I kick up the backside and just to remind them actually that this is how you close a sale, etc., etc. They've been doing it for such a long time, but generally on that side, no, they didn't need too much training, and it's, on the other hand, things change throughout the years, and you've got to what was you could probably get away with 20, 30, 40 years ago, before my time. but you know, sexism, racism, whatever ism, just is not allowed. And you've got to remember, most of these were quite mature people, you know, that come on, we're not having that anymore. You cannot do that, you know. We had a few problems with that, but generally once people got used to it, and yeah, we do not do this. You know, don't care if you did that 20 years ago. We just don't do that anymore. So on that side, but on the actual physical, just the selling side, they were pretty motivated, and obviously if you put pound notes in it, you know, they're very motivated, so they didn't need too much of that.
When did this discussion about sexism and racism come in?
I don't know exactly. I don't think we've really had too much of a racist problem. You know, we had a fair percentage of our staff from the BME community. It might be the odd dinosaur who needed to kick up the arse and say you can't use that word, but that was very unusual. Sexism was a little bit different, and I always amazed actually when I joined the store, the big ticket departments, the heavy household we used to call it, you know, the TVs, the washing machines, the beds, the furniture, was predominantly male sales force, and I could never understand that, you know, because women, you'd probably use the washing machine more than guys were, you know, husbands at home. Your wife sits on the sofa next to you, your partner does, you know, sleeps in bed with you and whatever else, and I'd never. It started changing towards the end. You know, we got more and more women joining the heavy departments, and that's where the money was. You know, that's you want to make good commission. It was on the big ticket departments. I never quite understand why we never really got that mix right. We did towards the end. It got better, but so is that sexism? Is that HR not doing their job properly? I mean, I don't like it when you say, look, we need a 50-50 sales or whatever. I don't like that selective thing. However, if it means that that's the only way we're going to change it, then so be it. You know, if a position comes, as I said earlier, you know, we did have very loyal staff who've been there for 20 odd years and such. So very rarely did we get a vacancy. It's only if somebody retired or something. So we didn't really have to change our staff too much, and most of them have been working together for many, many years. So yeah, it was unusual for a position to come up, a vacancy to come up, and then yeah, say towards the end we were getting more and more women in the bigger ticket departments. In what it is, height 1,500 people full time at its height. I think the store 1,200 were women. So you know, why I've only seen them I apologise. There were a couple of senior female executives, but predominantly male again, and nearly all the big tickets. So yeah, your fashions, your perfumery, etc. Yeah, nearly 99% women. But not the big ticket departments. Don't know why that was. I don't. John Lewis is like that. I don't know. I haven't shopped enough there. But I was really shocked when I came in all those years ago, going, well, where's all women? You know, bear in mind that you know, probably 2/3, if not more, 4/5 of the total staff were women in the store. I found it really a bit strange.
What was your relationship to the senior management?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I won't mention his name in case he sees this. I've always been a bit political. I'm political today. And we had a meeting after work, and it's election night. I won't say what year because that'll give him away. You know it's him. But we were running well late, and I said, I'm getting a bit annoyed now because I really want to go home, and I want to go and vote. I want to. And then his last words as we were getting up to leave were going, and you all know which party to vote for, and really glared at me. You know, so I knew what he meant. You know, it wasn't going to be my party. You know, which I thought was very bad of him. I thought he should not be putting, because of his position, telling understaff to how to vote, and I was actually pretty furious with him on that side. On the other hand, there's other guys who got on very, very well with. Look, I always played around a bit at work. Perhaps if I'd worked a bit harder and hadn't played around, I might have been senior manager. But work was, you work with these colleagues over 40 hours a week. You spend longer with your colleagues than you do with your partner at home. So it's important to get on. So I try to have a good rapport with my staff, but not like Ricky Gervais in the office and tell stupid dad jokes, whatever else. But not to have, as I said earlier about the red curtain thing, I didn't like that us and them attitude. And again, that was breaking down. I think it was particularly bad when I started, but those walls are gradually coming down. The older we got and the company became thrown into the 20th century, left its 19th century roots behind or whatever else, and it started to change for the better. There was one particular, I think it was one recession back in the 90s or something. Things were pretty tough. We were announcing redundancies. We lost some good faces, I've been there for a long time. And that was a real, put everybody back to basic, right, what are we going to do here? We've really got to look after each other now. We're all in this together. If we don't unite, then we're going to fail. We're going to disappear. And it was a tough time, but that's, I think, was actually the making of the business, to unify us. And we've lost 10% of our staff, so we've all got to work 10% harder or whatever else. It's sad at the time to see people go, but it also meant, and senior management had to get off their perches a little bit. One of them, I remember the store director sort of saying, right, okay, I realise we've been really busy, it's been a tough time, etc., etc., etc. But please stop me, on the shop floor now if you see me. Before you just like dash through and go to a meeting or whatever. But now, if I don't say good morning to you, you're allowed to kick me. It's because they didn't have that before. It's almost like a god sort of thing. But all of a sudden, became much more approachable. Earlier, I was very much one of the boys. We had the heavy boys, heavy departments, not our weight, but just the goods we were selling. So we kind of stuck together a little bit, more on the sales side, but also the management as well. And we'd have a few. We had the club upstairs, and we'd have a few beers up there and whatever. Kind of stuck together. Towards the end, and I got a little bit senior up the ladder. Couldn't really do that so much, and obviously we lost the bar. 2004, 5, whatever it was. So we didn't have that sort of unified thing anymore. The great thing about the bar is that you could have had the worst day on earth or whatever else, and you could take your colleagues upstairs and say, oh, Mrs. X of Coulsdon, or Mr. Jones of Balham, or Brixton, or wherever else. Oh, what a nightmare he was, or whatever else. And you could talk to your colleagues over a beer and get it out of your system. It's, I've done the same, blah, 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 blah. And the second pint, he'd gone. Who'd forget about Mr. Jones of Balham and Mrs. Wilcox of Purley or whatever else. It was gone, the second pint. Right, what are we up to now? Who's going to put the music on? Who's going to dance? Whatever. And that was a shame that we lost that bar, because it was good. As I said earlier, we had staff stay there for a long, long time, and in fact you had that facility up there, and it wasn't expensive, heavily subsidised. You could talk to each other. We kind of lost that towards the end once the bar went. I don't know why, actually, because I think it was still making a profit at the time. But there you go. It's a little bit different. I stayed right to the end, so I did like the ALLDERS Mark II, and it really was a different company. We lost a lot of staff, obviously, and we didn't really have the backup we'd had before. So we had a lot of backup. We had our own medical department, 2 nurses and stuff. If you not just say for the customers, but for staff as well. And it's quite nice actually, if you had an illness or whatever, or you thought you weren't particularly well, you could go and see the nurse, and whatever you said to her didn't go back to HR, personnel department, and theoretically, we'll sort this out, Cliff, I recommend you do A, B or C, and then you could do this at work, not make a GP appointment, not take the morning off, see her, and she was very neutral, it never went to management, or whatever else, it was strictly personal between you and her. So it's good, there's a lot of backup, but yeah, we kind of lost that over the years. And of course it's very expensive, having a couple of nurses on the payroll. It was different. It was different. It was heavily subsidised, but still made a profit. I would go up there 3-4 times a week probably. I know. But I was shocked actually when Alders closed. When I then started having to go to pubs, how expensive beer was. I thought, whoa, really? We've been paying this for the last 20 years. And it was a good, and we didn't have the management thing either. You could talk to, the guy who took the goods in on the loading dock. You could talk to the managing director in there. I think it was the Japan-Korea World Cup 2002, because it was in Japan. The kick-off times are strange for UK audiences, like 9 o'clock in the morning. And I know management were very worried that half the staff would go down the pub at 8:30, watch the football, and come to work drunk or something. So they laid on free breakfasts and whatever else upstairs to try and get. And if the game went to penalties, we could actually the store was opening, but if you were in there early, you could stay and watch the rest of the game and then go to work, sort of thing. So they was that worried that people would be had one or too many. So, I remember being up there for that one, and it was quite busy, very busy. Football's on. The free breakfasts are going down very well, and a couple of senior, a couple of directors came up and said, "Cliff, do you mind if we sit here?" Because there was room at my table, and I had no idea. I had my back to them, yeah. And then I realised I've got egg yolk going all down my chin. Okay. yes, please do, to one of the directors, and with egg all over my face, and oh no, but there you go. But it was good. We all get together and like this. So the bar was excellent for that. Brilliant.
And there were other social events as well. Events.
Yeah. I didn't go to. I think Warren Mitchell played Alf Garnett. I think did. I did a gig there. At the weekends they would get celebrities and stuff down, comedians and whatever. I certainly remember when alternative comedy came along. We had, I think it was on Thursday nights, alternative comedy nights up there. One gig, Paul Merton, who's still around today obviously, he was playing up there with Jo Brand, who was number 2 on the bill. Jo Brand's quite a large lady. Terry, who ran the bar, was a big man. We'd never heard of this Jo Brand before. Again, she's around today as well. And she came on stage, and Terry brought her to the stage, and her words were going, "Well, who's that fat bastard?" And she's quite a large lady herself, and I think everybody in the audience went, "And who the hell are you?" Talking like that. Paul Merton, the same, I think, was running the gig at the time. So, yeah, there were a few. There was some bad nights and some very good nights. Some totally, probably not politically correct now, but then again, the ladies would have the male strippers and we would have the female strippers or something like that. You look at it now and think, oh, that was a bit tacky, Mm-hmm. But, they put money in or whatever else. And of course, they would rent it, especially at Christmas time, because we're all working very, very hard, being Christmas in retail. So we really didn't have too much time to be upstairs. They'd rent it out to local offices or something, or I remember the police force the Croydon police force having a night out there. So that made some good money, it's for the Sports and Social Club.
But it was exclusively for the members of staff.
Yes, you could sign if you had a big, I think, last Friday of the month after payday or something was always disco night. You could sign a friend in, but yeah, generally yes, exclusively. Apart from the odd nights, as I say, they'd rent the room out to the police force or little local companies or whatever else. Yeah, exclusively for staff. Yeah.
Around how many employees do you have in the store?
I think at its height it was about 1,500. Christmas time, I think, even if you got back in its heyday, we had temporary staff in, it was nearer 2,000. If you include the warehouse staff and the transport staff who weren't based in the Whitgift, in the North End, but just down the road, yeah, it was probably more like 2,500 at its height. Yeah, there's a big warehouse down now, a Tesco home delivery depot down Factory Lane. We had a big warehouse down there, and then Hackbridge before that, over kind of Wallington way. But yeah, you can probably see the old warehouse from up here. But it's a big yellow building over there by the IKEA towers. Yeah, so there were quite a few hundred working down there as well. Even our club, which was quite big, because during the daytime it was a canteen, so I don't know, hold 1,000 people, something like that. It was quite a big club. But at Christmas time, even that wasn't big enough. So the Christmas parties, staff parties, we've been to Fairfield, the old Blue Orchid Club, and most of these clubs are closed down now. The one at West Croydon, I've got a Cat's Whistle, no, that's a Streatham. There's one down at West Croydon we used to use. Yeah, the big night halls, big nightclubs, we used to exclusively have them once a year for our Christmas parties, which were a bit wild because most of the drinks were free. Yeah, good times.
What time did you start your shift?
Well, again, this is something. When did the Sunday trading laws come in? Late 90s. Obviously, it was a 6-day week, a 6-day store in those to begin with. So 9 till 6, basically. Apart from the odd half hour there and everywhere. Day off during the week, but then Sundays came along. So the store was open 10 till 4. Which meant if you did work, you had 2 days off during the week rather than 1. Sundays was a bit of a shame they went through. I didn't actually sign up for it because my contract was to work Monday to Saturday. When Sunday trading laws came out, I said, no, I'm not touching that. And a lot of other people went the same way as well. But of course, if you're a salesman, and then Sunday very quickly became a big sales day, I thought, oh, I'm missing a lot of commission here, so they gradually came back, sort of thing. But anybody new joining the business it was now a 7-day rota rather than a 6-day rota. But unless it was really, really busy on Christmas or New Year's, I didn't work Sundays. I refused to. Not that I'm particularly religious, but it was a family day, So I signed up to work Saturdays, not Sundays. Okay,
can you talk a little bit more how the structure of the store was at the time that you started working at ALLDERS?
What, management-wise, or?
Not the building inside. How the floors, how many floors you had?
Kind of departments.
We
see only the building from outside now.
Of course. Well, it's a little rabbit warren, if you can imagine that. When they built the Whitgift Centre, 69, 70, that all of a sudden became a major focus. We had to change everything to get people in. It's still called ALLDERS Square today, I think, the far end of the Whitgift Centre. And on 2 floors, ground floor and a mezzanine floor, and on the first, so 3. We had to kind of like move the store around 90 degrees sort of thing to so you've now had not only the North End opening, but now the Whitgift opening, We'd always had a small opening in George Street, so from Joshua's old days in 1875 or whenever he started with his little stores, and then escalators and lift shafts came up, so rather than going sideways he went up and up and up and up and up. When did we open the 5th floor? Late night, middle 90s. We added another floor on top, and obviously the car park built around the back as well. So the store was always having to adapt. Some just did it well, other times, but behind the scenes was a bit of a nightmare. Be honest with you, they had you had one goods in department, which is in the not just the basement, the sub basement. They had to go in further down, and then stock rooms for all these different departments. And as the store became bigger and bigger, and all the plants down there, the water tanks and whatever else, big switch cabinets for the electricals and whatever else. It was. I don't think we could have extended it anymore, to be honest, without knocking it down. It was very difficult. I used to get lost quite regularly downstairs. I'd be looking for a certain porter who, have you signed these goods in yet? What's Dave? He's gone down there. I thought, oh no. I'd go down this rabbit warren of little stock rooms in the sub basement. Oh, good grief, where am I? And why are you going that way back? There's a staircase here. And you'd always find a staircase you'd never used before. Where the hell does this bring me? Or now and again, because you would, doesn't matter if you worked there for 20 years or not, you just basically went to your own department, you went upstairs to the canteen, you came back, and that was your job. You didn't really walk around the store too much. And I'd had a big argument. Was I office based? I can't remember now. I'd had a bit of so I thought, you know what, I either take this out another member of staff, or I walk around the block. I've got to lose this temper. I've really got to lose this temper. So I suddenly found I'm still sort of stomping around, thinking, really hungry. I found myself on an escalator I'd never used before, and I thought, where am I? Where does this bring me? And I thought, wow, this one. Or if you just put, all right, officially you're only supposed to use the staff entrance exit, but now and again if you wanted to use the shop there, but the staff exit's over there, and you didn't really want to walk all the way around the town, you might snip out. I know it was a sackable offence, but hey, I think we all did it. And you come in the wrong door. Oh shit! How do I get? Excuse my French. How do I get to my department from here? Because you were using again a staircase or an escalator or whatever else you hadn't used before. There's one which went down to the small electricals from heavy electricals from the North End. Everybody knew the Mall. It connected George Street, nice little shops on the Mall itself. But there's another wee little door, and you walk through, and I thought, it's a beautiful staircase. What's all this about? I haven't used this before. Spiral thing. Not as grand as the staircase we got here, but good. It's looked like Art Deco or something. It was interesting. And anyway, he brought me out in large electrical. I knew where I was then. I'm going to do some research on this. How come it looks nothing else in the store, nothing at all. Well, it was bombed during the war. You had the almshouses, then Alders, then a cinema, and then the rest of Alders. And Alders had been trying to buy this cinema for years and years and years. And then it got bombed. So they bought it, and the staircase was actually the spiral staircase which led to the lower stalls of the cinema. So it'd been there the whole time, but I'm still there today. David Lean, cinema based here. David Lean saw his first ever movie in that cinema, and that got him his love affair of film from this. He might have walked down that little staircase when he was a kid. Again, we were in the Alders Mark II. We started to open a few more stores. We'd had the collapsed in 2005. By 2009, we were looking at extending again. Only a little bit, So we were opening a place up not near Cambridgeshire. And got involved in that quite a lot, trying to open this place up. We were up going, anyway, I used to stay overnight and then come back the next day or something like that. Anyway, cut long story short, we're going up there. There's a goods movement controller. He wanted to see how the goods in and out was going. Head of personnel, HR at the time was with us, etc. And then we were in the car together. It was quicker, but it was cheaper if 4 of us went by car rather than train. And I was a bit shocked because I'd been working so much on this Cambridge product. I wasn't really had my eye on the ball in Croydon, which was stupid really, but it wasn't my fault. They were putting loads of pressure on me to get this place open. So I got a shock of my life when we were talking in the car journey up there, and our lingerie department, which I think had been quite successful, obviously not something I know too much about, but all of a sudden I had an Ann Summers concession in there. I thought, really? Yeah, we're an old-fashioned family department store, and we've got Ann Summers coming in. I was actually shocked. I remember saying to the head of HR, I said, don't tell me they have their own small electrical department, please. I don't want to know about that. I was shocked that but times change. You've got to move with them. So that was, and then other competition takes it away from you. Certainly when I first started, we had a big DIY department down in the basement, but the likes of Home Base and B&Q came from nowhere, and we just couldn't compete anymore. So some departments we had to drop, others we added, depending on the time and public fashions of the time.
When did you decide to, and why did you decide to leave ALLDERS?
I had to. You probably noticed I got a bad back. Every 7 years or so I get a flare up. So I had one just as we were going into administration the first time. And I came back just in time. I was off for about 6 months. And then the last one in 2012, it was getting a bit bad. It was getting worse, to be honest with you. I deliberately chose to live near to work because I was getting problems with commuting and walking too far. So, and I'm still there today. It's typical, isn't it? The minute I bought this place, they sent me up north. But that's another story. We were opening a place up in Liverpool as well. So great, I just bought this place. I'd be near to work, and you sent me up north. But there you go. It was one of those things. So in the end, it's sort of I was struggling even to walk for 15 minutes, let alone do any work.
But you must have just gone before the shop closed at all, altogether?
It was literally, I think I went in about the March 2012, I think by September we closed. No, we'd announced we were closing. I think we actually stopped trading in the January the next year or something, but it was pretty much announced almost after I left, that we were going to close the second time.
Not related to you?
No. I'd like to say it would. Well, strangely enough, when I came back the first time, so we were going through the first administration, and everybody said, "Oh, Cliff, you're back," and we survived. Croydon survived. So there were a few when I left the second time. Well, I say left. Sorry, I was off long-term sickness. Please come back, Cliff. We need you again. Do it again. But no, I'd be lying to myself if I. But no, it was much harder work. ALLDERS Mark II, different. We were doing everything. We didn't have the backup which we had in ALLDERS Mark I, as I said earlier. In my previous retail experience, we had nothing like that in Mark II. You really had to work hard, and also become an expert all of a sudden, things you really hadn't done before. So that's a bit enjoyable, but damn hard, really hard. The only one, I say, because I was 31, I think it was when I started, and we did have a sort of like a boys' club, the big ticket department, heavy boys. So when we went through the administration, sorry, we went to, not administration, sorry, when we were doing redundancies back in the early 90s, late 80s, whatever it, 89, 90, whatever it was, one, I think they were a bit shocked. They thought I'd been there for 20 years by that time, and I'd only been there 10 or something, because I've been hanging around with these boys for such a long time. They thought I was an old timer, you know. It's, but no, I was a whippersnapper to this lot. You know? 1 minute you're the new kid on the block, the next minute you're an old has-been, you know. But yeah, there were people a lot longer than me there, a lot longer than me. Certainly in my department, and just my department, there were 3 or 4 with 40 years experience. You know, a lot of people, and I'm certain that the other people you've interviewed will probably say they did their 10, 15, 20 years or whatever. A lot of people. There used to be a board in the management gallery with all the long service people, and it's a bit like the staircase of number 10, you know, with all the old prime ministers and stuff, except it was longer and longer and longer. You know. It was a lot of us, yeah.
What do you do afterwards, after you've left?
After I left, I decided, obviously my health wasn't great, so I had to sort that out first. I decided, because I'd been in retail for such a long time, and Croydon had been good to me, so I thought I'd see what I could do. So I started working for Help the Aged on a voluntary business. You know, I wasn't getting paid for this, so it's time for payback. You know, I've done all right. I've not made £1 million, but I've done okay, and it's time to help the more needy. So I got involved in like the charity side of it, and started doing advocacy for people on benefits and whatever else. Yeah, as I became more political and I started knocking on doors, and even though I thought I knew my locality, my little local environment, I was shocked to find that, I don't know what I can describe as squalor, people were living in. These office conversions around here, Croydon it's nearly hit its budget for housing people, but this is not the way forward. They are not fit for purpose. I'm all for, I don't mind these new blocks going up by the station, whatever, they are brand new, but the office conversions are absolutely dreadful. And these people, they're all for rent. They're paying £1,200–1,500 a month, and they are disgraceful, disgusting. And the more I got into that, and then I'd look, not just housing, but education and you name it. It was absolutely awful. And obviously we have a problem with homeless on the street and whatever else. I get involved with Evolve, the old YMCA as well, there to make it better for people, rather than companies anymore. Yeah, but I might have made a few people millionaires with my stuff I did at work, whatever else, but there's good people in Croydon who did more help, and a lot of help on that side. So that's a bit of an eye-opener that people within half a mile of me or whatever were living in what's supposed to be a very prosperous town in the southeast, in London, and wow, we got to do something. We've really got to do something about this.
Do you learn some of those values and concerns from your working at ALLDERS?
No, not really. No, because we were with the products we were selling. It wasn't the average. I'll give you one example. Our headboards. Our average price for a headboard, I'm going back a few years now, was about £200. Now I'd go to our suppliers, and they'd say, "Cliff, we've got the product here for you. This will look really good in Croydon showroom. We've looked around and we've realised you've got a gap in the market. You haven't got a product at this price." And I'd say, "You don't understand our market. I'm selling headboards, £200 average, right up to £600–700. Other retailers aren't even doing the whole bed for £200. We're selling their best selling beds £200. You don't know our market. It was a phenomenal market. And it's not just in beds and furniture, but most other big ticket departments, it would be high end. You know, we were the Harrods of Croydon, we were Selfridges of Croydon, whatever you wanted to. We weren't like anybody else, and you always have a thing in retail. You know, when the going gets tough, go for the high ground. You know, because the millionaires will always have million pounds, so you could get away with a £15,000 bed or whatever it might be, or a 10 grand dining set or whatever. You might not sell quite so many, but you know, the likes of IKEA changed, certainly on furniture. You know, we could not touch the flat pack anymore. It wasn't our marketplace, couldn't compete. So we just went higher and higher and higher. You know, yes, you still need your bread and butter lines. You know, you still need to do a double bed at 500 quid or whatever, or less. You know, but you know, it wasn't the out and out. We were a little bit different to that. We didn't really. Perhaps towards the end, we've started going a bit down market, which I think was wrong. But it was good products at competitive prices with knowledgeable staff. So you kind of ticked all three boxes. Yeah, if some of the others want to look after the bottom end, that's fine, you can do that. At the end of the day, it cost me the same to deliver a £10,000 bed than it does a £100 mattress. So I know what I'd rather be paying, you know, our carriers. You know, it made sense, total sense, and did well for many years. You know, going for that high end marketplace, and it made us a destination shop. You know, there was nothing in Brighton at the time. We were going down there with vans. Started off once a week of you know, in a big van, you know, big lorry of customer goods every Friday. It'd be sold out. You couldn't get it, you know, for a delivery spot on to Brighton. That we had to do it twice a week, Fridays and Saturdays. And it wasn't just that. People didn't really want to go to the West End. They'd come all the way from the South East, all the way from the South Coast to shop with us. You know, such as our catchment area, massive catchment areas. 4 of the top 10 postcodes in the UK for average price of housing. Sorry, I'm going to bore you. I actually know all these stats. I mean, they are 15 years old, these stats now, but you know, but I used to know this sort of stuff. We're all within 10 miles of Croydon, you know, and all south of here. Kingston customers, well, store in Kingston, it wasn't a great store. You had Bentals, John Lewis, etc. But they would come over, you know, to Croydon, Sutton, Bromley. People, they'd come to Croydon, Crawley, Gatwick Airport, whatever. You know, it's a massive catchment area, massive.
So, how do you see the difference? Could you tell us about the difference between when you are telling us all of this and nowadays?
I think that unfortunately, I mean, it's good to see last week there's 12 new tenants going into the Wick gift, but I think it really is a drop in the ocean. I think bricks and mortar, high street retailing is dead, unfortunately. We're going to have to, you know, whether Westfield, whatever they come up with, whether it be entertainment, whatever they put in there. We got room for more restaurants. We've got Restaurant City. We've got Box Park. We've got South Croydon. Every time, you know, you have so many chicken shops and so many restaurants, etc. So I'm not quite sure what their plans are. I mean, just looked out the window, that big hole. I would love that to be a public square, you know, as we have in Europe and something. You know, we don't have enough of that in England, and being right opposite this beautiful town hall, that would be a perfect spot. You know, have a cafe society, tables and fountains and whatever else. If you want to build blocks of flats around 3/4 of it, fine, just leave this bit open. There are ways to redesign this town, but unfortunately it's not going to be on retail. And I can't believe we're still giving planning applications for people to build warehouses down the Purley Way when you've got an empty, huge amount of space in the Whitgift Centre in central Croydon. We need to stop that straight away. Look at IKEA in Hammersmith, the old King's Mall shopping centre. IKEA have actually got a high street store now. They've taken over the whole shopping centre. That's the way forward. Stop these retail parks. They've got to be stopped. We bring them back into town. They're not. All right, we're fortunate we have the tram, but a lot of these towns, unless you've got a car, you can't get to these places. That's the only way retail's going to work again, if we bring them back into town centres and not these out of town retail parks. It's not good for the town centre to be empty as it is. And I don't know about you, but I find them soulless. The old ALLDERS, we had 44 stores, 22 in the department stores, 22 what we used to call homes, sheds down in retail parks. I hated going to those. They were soulless. You had one burger van or one coffee shop or something like that, rather than all the fantastic selection you had in central Croydon. And I hated when we Mark II, when we were opening these places out of town. Not my cup of tea, that's for sure.
So that being said, what would be your wish for, or your expectation, now that the ALLDERS are closed? What are you expecting to happen in there?
I probably answered that in the last question to a certain extent. I don't think, unfortunately, we still are one or two department stores left, but there's not many. I was there. John Lewis are probably going to close a few this year. Harrods are still there. Selfridges, again, they're going for the exclusive marketplace. They'll probably survive, but I don't think provincial department stores have really got much future. However, that's not to say that if actually, Kennard's said it all those years ago, back in the 40s, 50s, the other department store in Croydon, after Grants, pony rides. I mean, you can't do it today, animal welfare and stuff, but they realised that you actually had to make it a bit of a song and dance. It's not just actually putting stuff on shelves and people come and buy it or order it or whatever else. You have to be in the entertainment industry, and that means supplying restaurants, and obviously ALLDERS. I mean, we were very good at that. I think we have 5 or 6 customer restaurants, on different floors. But we just needed a bit more razzmatazz, where they build a bowling alley or another cinema. I don't know, but it's got to be something more than just retail. It can't survive on its own.
But what would be that you want?
What do I want?
Yes.
Oh, come on, I'm old. I want a pub on every corner, so I don't have to walk very far. No, it's not very... Don't really ask me. What do I want things which are good for the people of Croydon, rather than myself. Now, I'm quite prepared to listen. Look, do I look like the guy who knows about, black music? No, I don't. But I'm aware that Stormzy's done a damn good job promoting Croydon, and I'll back him as much as I can't say I know his music or I like it, but I've got a lot of time for it. So listening to younger people, they're black, white, Asian, whatever, and what do they need? Not what do I need. I've got everything I've got need. I've got all my furniture at home. It'd be nice to see a few more clothes shops, but what do the young people of Croydon need? We have one of the youngest London boroughs, population, average age. We're one of the youngest here. We're not listening to them, we're not doing enough for them. So I'd like to get the youth more empowered in the decision making for Croydon. And that includes retail or whatever it might be. We've got to do something for the kids.